What about Blob? Paris, France. Achieved 3000, November 6, 2019. Paris is best known for its romantic atmosphere, monuments, and art, but all that might change with the new exhibit at the Paris Zoological Park. Move over Eiffel Tower, there's a new must-see attraction in town, the Blob. Yes, you read that right. A Paris zoo opened a new exhibit, showcasing a bright yellow, single-celled organism. The zoo staff has nicknamed it the Blob. There is a famous 1950 sci-fi film of the same name. Though this particular blob won't terrorize the city, attacking everything in its path, the similarity is clear. The organism is gelatinous and has some pretty astounding abilities. The first blob to capture the world's attention was discovered by a Texas woman in 1973. The story appeared in the New York Times, but it was forgotten nearly as swiftly as it had surfaced. In 2016, a study showed just how smart this brainless creature is. It's a puzzle that's been interesting scientists for a long time. Now, the Paris Zoological Park is bringing the blob to the people. Scientists grew several blobs in petri dishes. They fed them oatmeal until they grew large enough to graft onto tree bark. Then, they placed one specimen in a terrarium so visitors could observe the blob up close and personal. The blob's official name is Physarum polycephalum. That means many-headed slime in Latin. Scientists know it's not a type of fungi, it's not a plant, and it's not an animal either. So what is this bonkers thing? Although they made their best guess, scientists aren't exactly sure what genus it belongs to. But what they do know is that the blob, even though it doesn't have a brain, is pretty genius. Need some evidence? There is the fact that even though the blob doesn't have a stomach or mouth, it is still able to detect food and digest it. The blob likes to eat oats. It can also move at speeds of about 1 inch, 2.5 centimeters, an hour. That might not seem very fast until you consider that the blob doesn't have any legs or wings. Researchers have also discovered that the blob can navigate mazes and construct complex transportation networks. It can also remember certain routes for up to a year. In one experiment, researchers placed oat flakes in a pattern that mimicked locations around the city of Tokyo, Japan. As the blob grew tendrils connecting the food supply, it arranged itself into an almost exact model of the city's complex rail network. Experiments have shown that the blob can learn particular routes to food, for example. It also knows how to avoid toxic substances. It can transfer this knowledge to another blob of the same genetic makeup if they fuse themselves together. Say a blob comes in contact with salt, a substance it doesn't like. It can then communicate where the salt is and how to stay away from it by merging with another blob. Oh, and if the blob gets cut in half, it can regenerate itself within 2 minutes. Mind blown! The species has been around for about 1 billion years. It thrives in humid, dark environments such as forest floors. It feeds on tree bark. Its greatest foes are light and drought. Scientists have learned that the blob also dislikes caffeine. This creature can even hibernate for years when faced with a threat to its survival. So if you ever visit Paris and need directions to the Eiffel Tower, you might just ask your friendly neighborhood blob. It'll be sure to get you there in no time.